Welcome back to the Solid World podcast brought to you by Solid World Entertainment. This is episode, I don't even know what episode this is. Probably like 30, 31. Special guest in the building today. Let me make sure I give you a proper introduction.
Stop it.
Straight from the 252, like me, Wilmston.
Absolutely.
In Wilmston, North Carolina, went to Elizabeth City State.
For sure.
Did you get your master's too?
I got my master's in Hampton.
Got your master's at Hampton. We're getting into all that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Jaylyn Brown to you. Round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Definitely been wanting to have you on the podcast. Just recently reached out to you a couple months ago about it. I think today's episode will be special and inspirational for a lot of people for what you do. So let's get right into it. First of all, like you said, you went to Elizabeth City State, former athlete, former baller, just like me.
Yeah.
What was your major?
My major was business management.
Business management. And when you were in college, because I know me, I was just there to hoop. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, the only thing I thought about was hooping for these few years. Then going overseas and playing. I did not think about what I wanted to do career-wise after college. What was your mindset going into college and during your tenure? Like, were you thinking ahead or?
Well, in a sense, yes. So my older brother, he started out at Fayetteville State, and so his advice to me, because I want to be sports management, right? Like
That's what I was.
all athletes, for some reason, they just kind of like throw us into sports management, and he was like,
Literally.
don't get caught up in that. Like you know the sport, so that's going to come natural, but learn the business of it. You can do anything with business. If you want to stay in sports, you can stay in sports, but you want to be able to be flexible and transition. And so when I got to Liz, I was like, okay, well, everybody's in sports management. Like the sports management building is literally in the gym. The business building is way across campus. So every day after 5 a.m. preseason come, I'm the only student athlete that's walking across campus by myself to get to my building. And so, I mean, it was just one of them things where it's like, is this going to pay off? And I had great instructors, like all foreigners, but great instructors. And they literally helped me to see myself outside of the sport, which I appreciate now. Like at first I'm like, I'm a hooper, like I'm good. I'm going to, I'm putting in this work. I don't have to worry about post-grad. Like I don't have to worry about that. I know where I'm going. I'm going overseas.
Absolutely.
Not knowing like God's plan or how it's going to happen, but I'm glad that they, imparted it into me. So it worked out perfect. Like they taught me how to create a plan and know how to transition and knowing what the off season and stuff looks like for myself business wise and making sure that I have capital, finances, that my assets and stuff were in alignment so that in those moments where the career gets rocky, you have something to fall back on. And so now I appreciate it. I hated those nights having to stay up writing 10 to 12 page, business plans, but it literally was projection for where I am now. So
Absolutely, and that's dope. Like it sounds like you took the routes that I wish I would have took. Like all I did was, I didn't even get an internship. Like the internship I had was with the lacrosse team. They told me to come to practice like once a week.
wow.
Like that was it. They just kind of walked me by, and it's like you said. As soon as I got in the door, they was like, "Oh, you can either take sports management or mass communications." I'm from Greenville. I don't know what either of these is. Like, I don't even know many people that went to university colleges at the time.
That's
so
true.
I'm like, yeah, sports. All right, cool. Put me in that.
Right.
And you are an agent, right?
Correct.
Sports agent, basketball agent. How
Yes.
do you classify yourself?
I classify myself literally by my title, the PlayHER agent.
I like that.
It's literally my staple as to how I got where I am, right? I was a player first. And so even when talking to my clients, even when doing business, I do it from the perspective of a player. Like, what would I want done for me? That's how I got into being an agent. I had 2 contracts on the line before I went to Hampton. Like, we were in negotiations because, I mean, the market for guards is really, really oversaturated, right? And so we were in negotiations between Ukraine and Switzerland, and I was a grad assistant at Hampton. I'm talking to the coaches; they're helping me as well, and I'm also talking to, at the time, my agent and saying, "Hey, like this is what I want, this is what I need," and I wanted to understand the business of it because. There was such a stigma with agents. Oh, they'll take your money, commission, whatever. And I didn't know. And so I decided to become a dual like major. I started out in organizational leadership and picked up sports law, right? And so I'm learning everything as I go because I'm like, I cannot get over there and be stuck.
Right.
Like, I have to make sure I have money to get back home. I have to be able to get back home during the holidays. Those are, times that are important, right? And so it literally shifted me into learning the business while I was a player.
Dope.
And so even now as an agent and as a counselor, as a businesswoman, like having to be all of those things to my players, I let them know, like, I'm doing this from the perspective that I learned it from. A player. I was a player first.
Yeah.
I was in your shoes, so I know what that transition is like, trying to prepare mentally to be away from your family that first year, to trying to understand, like, what all is entailed in your contracts. Seriously, it was me being a player. And so finally the business stuff started to click, like once you start paying those licensure fees, because it's like, okay, well, I can't step between the lines now.
Facts.
I'm doing the business. When you pay that WNBA licensure fee, it clicks because it's extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And there are some, agencies that are agent fees that are more expensive. But for me, coming right out of grad school, having my first like invoice, okay, send this, wire this, I was like, it's happening. And so that transition again, like it was one that was unexpected.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was definitely unexpected.
You really went right into it.
Right into it.
Oh, that's dope.
Went right into it. I started out, like I said, once I left Elizabeth City, I think I took about half a year. So here's the truth. I didn't like school at all.
Same.
But I'm extremely smart, right? Extremely smart. And I ended up like taking about 6 months off. I'm like, okay, I got to figure something out. Which route am I going to go? And so I tried to get into coaching because everybody was like, you're a good player. You would be a good coach. And I'm like,
That's
not the
That's
case.
not always the case.
And so I started coaching back home at the middle school, and I got the head coach position for the boys, which is rare. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see how this is. And no offense, but kids are a bit different now.
Now, for sure.
And I literally thought that girls were more emotional. But I was coaching young men, and they were extremely emotional.
Really?
Yes, it was totally different. I had not seen anything like it before, and I was like, I don't think this is my area of effectiveness, right? Because I'm really straight shooter, really passionate, and so when coaching them, I was giving them what I learned from college.
Right.
And they were picking it up, but the transition of trying to make adjustments, in-game adjustments, sometimes they struggled with picking up the information.
Yep.
So I could see the overwhelmingness of trying to process all of the information. And I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
This is not for me. I want to make sure that, they have someone who can reach them, and my style of coaching right now is not doing that. And so on the flip side, I ended up working, kind of sort of getting a side gig with my dad. He was like, you're home, you're trying to figure it out, come work for me. Now, mind you, my dad works in sanitation, GFL. And so GFL had formerly known as Waste Industries, it was bought out by GFL. And so they're rebranding and doing different things. And because, of course, in business, we do different type of stuff with marketing. They had me come on, and the pitch to me was, you're going to help us like rebrand all of our company items. Well, sanitation is trash cans, it's dumpsters. And so my dad is like, yeah, I want to, teach you a lesson really quickly. And I'm like 24, 25, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay, he pushing it. He has me in his pickup truck, or the company pickup truck, every day for about 3 or 4 months, riding around putting stickers on the trash cans. And I'm checking off boxes, and I'm riding around and figuring stuff out. And every day I just said to myself, like,
this ain't it.
This can't be life.
Yeah.
Like, 2-time female athlete at a university,
Right.
all CIAA, MVP every year. There's no way in the world I'm back home putting stickers on trash cans.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget, one day he had me go with him to what is called a roll-off dumpster. It's like the really, really long one where people used to like throw their furniture and stuff away. And he has me to go with him to like put the tarp on it. And I get out and I'm like, what? You don't need me. Like, you can do this by yourself. And so he was like, girl, like, get up and help me. Like, I need some help. And so we're rolling the tarp on top of the, I think it was like a 40-yarder, right? And I'll never forget his words to me. He was like, you smell that? Because it's garbage. Remember, like, it's garbage. He was like, you smell that? And I was like, yeah, like, it smells horrible. Like, how can I not smell it? He was like, that's your tuition.
Oh, man.
And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I went to school on scholarship. I went to school on student. He was like, yeah, but who name did they have to put that stuff in? Mine. Mm-hmm. All those years you went to school, all those years that you ran up and down the road, and your mom is going in that gas that went in that van and paying for you and your teammates to have Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's some tuition too. And I was like, but I went to school on scholarship. Like, I worked hard. Like, I earned what I got. He was like, I'm not saying that to you so that you'll become offended. I'm saying that to you so that you don't come back here.
That's right? Real.
You here for 3 or 4 months. You've accomplished a lot. I don't even want you to even think that you're getting comfortable. I got you on here so that you can have some money in your pocket. But I'm not asking for you to stay here, and I don't want you to ever forget this moment. This was in about October of November of 2019. 2020, I was enrolled, January 2020, I was at Hampton as a graduate assistant.
Right.
Doing whatever it was I had to do, because in that moment, he just reminded me, like, I don't want you to forget just because things are not happening as fast as you want them to, because that's another process of being a player. Like, sometimes the contracts don't come in as fast. Sometimes the things don't happen as fast. So you have to be able to move, adjust, and shake. And literally, like, I thank God for having good parents, because they've always made sure that I was covered and made sure that, I had a business to come home to, so that if I needed some help and I needed some time to get on my feet, that I could do that. Right. But they never handed me anything. It was, okay, yeah, this is our business, but you're going to work
for it. Mm-hmm.
Right? And you get it because your dad's an entrepreneur, been in entrepreneurship forever. So it's like, oh, yeah, like, you're not just about to, like, come and get some commission off of this just because, I'm your pops and I'm the owner, or I'm your mom and, I oversee everything. No, my dad was like, remember, I grew up, like, with holes in my floor.
Absolutely.
Rats and roaches. I want you to understand, like, you're not going to be given anything.
Absolutely.
And so it shifted me, because growing up, when you got your parents as your coaches, it's like, man, I can't stand this guy. Like, he's doing too much. But I grew a level of appreciation for my father in that moment that, like, now even if we bump heads, it's like, no, I honor you. I respect you. I appreciate what you did, because I get it now.
Yeah.
Like, this was hard work. This is what I had to do. And so even with my players, I instilled that same thing into them. Like, we're going to always have a plan. You're going to always have something to land on. You're going to always have something to fall back on. And I don't want you to ever get wrapped up in just being a basketball player. My dad used to say that to me all the time.
That's real.
You'll be a basketball player to the world, but you're going to always be my daughter. I'm always make sure that you're taken care of. I'm always make sure that I put you in the right position to succeed. Right. And so for me, I was like, oh, man, I didn't know it all along. He was cultivating my vision as a point guard.
Yeah.
I didn't know all along, him pushing me and saying different things to me, that he was cultivating my confidence to be a shooter.
Right. And
so now here I am waiting, 4 or 5 years from now, I'll be inducted to the Hall of Fame at ECSU.
Really?
Yes. Like,
that's dope.
In the top 10 all-time scorers for the women. Setting records as a three-point shooter at Elizabeth City. And it's just stuff that I don't talk about, that I've always, known since, I graduated and just, having conversations with people. But when you're doing the work and you just worried about, like, making sure that I cover my tracks and making sure that, I do what I'm supposed to do, because you get it. We're from a small town, right? We don't get opportunities like this every day.
That's fast.
And I think, my concern with the ones that's coming behind us is, they see the highlight reels and they see the tapes and they see stuff that's going on, but they don't understand, like, opportunities don't come like this every day. And so they feel like, I can buy a camera and I can become a photographer, or I can pick up a mic and start me a podcast, but they don't understand the grind that goes behind it. They don't understand, like, you stayed up a whole lot of nights creating Solid World, and that it had a plenty of rough drafts before you ever got, your solid one. Like, they don't see all of that. And so what I'm telling my players, and I'm telling those that, I connect with, I'm like, listen, you have to understand that this did not just happen overnight. I literally lost everything. Right? I get to school in January. By March, COVID hits. So the entire plan that I had to not go back home, to not look like a failure, to not be embarrassed, here I am back home in March trying to figure things out. They just cut my graduate assistantship. They just cut the program. Everybody's in fight or flight mode. And here I am again 3 months later, door dashing and Uber Eats and Instacart to make a living.
It out.
Right. And not only that, I'm 2 hours away from home. 2 hours away from home in VA. Shout out to the 7-5. That's my second home. And trying to make ends meet because I'm like, there's no, like, I just know this is, God, this is definitely not your plan for me. Yeah. Like, no way in the world. Me?
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that transition from leaving school to try to get to where you're going, they don't know everything, everything you went through, the hardships it's going to take for them to figure out, especially once you're done playing the sport.
Absolutely.
To figure out what's next. Like, I know it took me a minute. I've tried to be many things. I tried to be a firefighter one time.
See?
Trying to get good insurance. I've tried to be a basketball coach as well.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it's a good thing that you're teaching the players that you have under you now to, like, you're going to be good. We're going to have a plan B or a plan C if the plan A does not work.
Right.
So that's a great thing to instill in them because I'm sure that gives confidence in them for you.
Right. Well, a lot of the work comes in helping them to discover who are you outside of a basketball player.
Right. Because
that's what nobody said. Like, nobody ever asked me, oh, well, like, what are your hobbies? Like, what do you like to do? Like, what are you naturally good at? Like, what's instinctual? Because what I've come to realize is that being genuine is one of the greatest assets you could ever have, right? Just working off the strength of what's naturally in you, right? Some people just naturally are nice and hospitable, so customer service would fit perfect for them. And so when I'm doing interviews with my players, I'm asking them, like, off rip, what are you good at naturally? Like, off the top of your head, are you good with numbers? Are you good with talking to people? Are you good with networking? Like, what are you good at? Because this will help me unpack, right? It helps me unpack exactly where else I can take you outside of you just being a player. Because granted, being a player, it might be the vehicle, but it's not the destination.
Absolutely.
We have a whole lot of road to cover.
Absolutely.
We got a lot of miles to put on this car. And granted, who I am as a player has been the vehicle to get me where I need to go. But it is not the destination for me, right? There are a lot of people that I've met just by being a player. But if I hadn't had the personality, if I hadn't had the customer service, the numbers, knowing how to do numbers. Like, I would have known that I would be good at creating invoices and being an executive assistant and being able to help other people, like, structure their businesses and talk about, different negotiations. And
absolutely.
I wouldn't have known how to do all of that.
Absolutely. I get it. Let me ask you this, right? How hard is it? Because the ball got to stop bouncing one day.
Absolutely.
So once you realized that you wasn't going to go overseas,
right?
What was that transition like for you mentally?
There was a lot of grief. Let me shout out my counselor, who's a former alum of Elizabeth City. Her name is J.C. Ruffin. J.C. is a MC. She's been BET. She hosts a lot of events in D.C. with the Washington Commanders. I love her because she really, really, like, helped me get through it. JC was an athlete, right? And things ended for her a little early. And so she helped me understand, like, it's okay for you to, like, grieve not being an athlete. Nobody had ever talked to me about, like, what postpartum career looks like for me, because here's the reality, right? We've been playing ball since forever.
For as long as you can remember.
Long as we can remember. For some of us that were really good, stopping was never a thought, right? Like, me, I'm stopping? No way. I'm going overseas. Like, if nobody was supposed to make it, I'm supposed to make it, right? Yeah. And so you have 20 years, some of us 25 years, because I started playing when I was like 3 or 4.
Right.
25 years of training for the next moment, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, for me, because the world just shut down one day, and I'm from a small town, we don't have semi-pro leagues around here like that.
Right.
So I'm driving to Richmond to try to fuel a fire, because I know if I stop playing, that a lot of my drive in what I do, it's not going to really exist anymore, because this is all I've ever worked for. This is all I've ever known. And it took me a second to just kind of say to myself, it's okay. Right? Because we as athletes have this mantra of, I gotta win.
Make it,
I gotta make it. Like, I can't fail. Being from a small town and people like seeing you every day, and they're like, wait a minute, like,
why you not overseas?
Why you not overseas?
Yeah.
And seeing
I get
the
that
old
question to
heads,
this day. Oh my
the old
God.
heads will ask you like, man, where you at now? Oh my God, you were doing so good. I got all your newspaper. And that used to hurt me so bad. Like, and no disrespect, but I've seen some people who were nowhere
near as good as you.
Nowhere near as
and
good
they got
as
a
me.
contract.
They don't have the stat line.
Yep.
If you line us up on the island, I'm devouring. Right? And so in my head, I'm like, there's no way.
I get it.
No, like, seriously. And so it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was a major blow to my ego.
Yeah.
Because what? Me? Not make it? Oh no. Right. Absolutely not. But it taught me that this is what life and reality really is. Yeah. Like, this is just the reality of it, right? Those people that you never expected to get a contract sometimes get contracts and go and kill, right? But it doesn't mean that all along they didn't have that in them. And it doesn't mean that all along I didn't have it in me.
Bingo.
It means that our purposes and our journeys just took a different route. And at the end of the day, you have to use what was imparted into you from being an athlete to keep you going and apply it to real life. Because, again, the reality is it's not going to happen for everybody.
Bingo. And that's what I had to realize. I had to realize that maybe this just ain't my journey. Maybe God got something else planned for me. I don't know what it is.
That was so hard to accept. Like,
it's very hard to accept.
No way in the world. He put me out here. I'm killing. I'm doing all of this. And you let me land back here? Like, okay, I thought like sticking the stickers on the trash cans was enough. You gotta literally rip, like when I say rip my whole plan to shreds, ripped it to shreds.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, you know what? How do I make do with what I have left, right? I did not know that that was gonna be the answer to me in this season right now.
Right.
There are not a lot of people who can build from scratch.
Facts.
Right? Nowhere near. There are not a lot of people that can just, you give them material and tell them build. It will take some of them ages to do it, right?
Absolutely.
For me, because I'm from a small town, we don't have all of the resources that the PWIs and the big time HBCUs and the, you know, the predominantly, how can I say it? I'm mind my words, but the rich class, right? Yeah. You don't have all of these opportunities. How do I get this out the mud?
Right.
Literally. Like, how do I build something? I don't have all the material. Like, and how do I maintain my patience and maintain my confidence in myself? Because I got a vision, right? I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing, but I don't have no resources. How do I build? Literally every day. Piece by piece. I had to take it one day at a time. I had to grieve some days, and some days I had to build. I had to study some days, and then sometimes I had to go back and grieve, and I had to give myself moments. And that's frustrating. It's disheartening at times, but it also teaches you a level of depth about yourself that can only be developed in those moments.
Facts.
And it teaches you, too, that all the while, you actually did have it in you. Right? Just because you didn't sign that contract to go overseas does not mean that who you were as an athlete is now dead.
Right.
And that's what JC taught me. JC was like, Bug, you don't see it now, but I'm telling you, that dog in you, it don't die, right?
Facts.
You're a little limp right now and you feeling away, and it's only your pride and your ego. But I promise you, once you put that to the side and actually see, like, mentally, you're smart. Physically, you're fit. You structured, like you're built for this. It's going to come around. And then you're not going to sit around moping about what happened. You're going to use your brain.
You're going to make it happen.
You're going to make it happen. And that's what you have to know is what makes you unique. You have to discover in this moment what makes you unique. You already know that being genuine is one of your staples, right? You already know that you're good at talking to people. Use what you have left to catapult you and to teach those that are coming behind you. Because I promise you, a lot of the people that you're about to help, they don't know how to build from scratch, and they need to know.
Facts.
Literally, that has been what has made me special in my area.
Right.
Some people just had it. Some people had people to invest $10,000 to $15,000 in their business. Some people had connections or moms and dads that went to, prestigious universities that could make a phone call and get them in there. I didn't have that.
Right.
All of the connections that I have were built off of the strength of me doing what I love and just making that rapport and building rapport. And I have connections now with USA Basketball. I have connections now with Black Sports Business Academy. I have connections now with, HBCU chancellors and their athletic directors. You know why? Because I put the work in.
Absolutely.
Building from scratch. And it does not come easy, but it comes to those that are seeking and willing to put themselves in position to get it done. Yeah. Are you going to get punched in the mouth sometimes? Absolutely. Are you going to punch them back, though?
You better. If not, you're going to fold.
You're going to fold. And that's how I learned, where the dog's at.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I love to hear all this because I'm learning everything about you right now, right? And it sounds like you're just a very determined person at everything you do.
Absolutely.
And you talked about all the connections you got. I seen you went to the Final Four last year as an agent.
Yes.
Quickly, I want to talk about how was that for you?
So, first of all, I don't fangirl out about anything, but when I saw Dawn Staley, I was like, all right,
she's a GOAT.
Nah, I felt like I made it. But I think for me, it was wait a minute. I'm here. I'm here as an agent. I'm watching one of my clients on the sideline, coach her team. And she's from my town. You know what I mean? For me, it was so surreal. It's we work for this.
Yeah.
This is, there were days where I literally was like, there's no way in the world this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
How in the world am I going to make this happen? Everybody's creating content. Everybody thinks they're good. Everybody where do I fit? What really makes me special? When I sat down and seen all those news reporters sitting in front of me, we in arm's reach, we having conversations. They're talking to me, I'm talking to them. And it's wait a minute. All of us in the same shoes.
Yeah.
Right? Because we get this, we have this perspective or this thought that because they're a news anchor covering the games, that their role and responsibility is any different than mine. It's not.
It's not at all.
Right? They got to wake up, get dressed, put makeup on, do hair, do all of the things, right, to go and be all of the things to the audience that they serve. And I have to get up and do that exact same thing. And the only thing that separates us is those that we answer to, right? Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily the finances. All of us are doing the work. All of us are. They're going over conversations and stuff that they have to have, post and pregame, interviews. And I'm sitting there going over different things that I have to go over with my player once she finished, coaching that game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it was all of this time I thought we were so much different. All of this time I thought there was so much that separated me from them. There was, they're the celebrity newscaster and I'm just, the small town agent, whatever. And I was like, nah.
It ain't that big of a difference at all.
It's not that big of a difference. You just do what you do, and I just do what I do.
Yeah.
But we're actually in the same lane where there isn't no this one is on this type of level and I'm on this type of level. No, that's really not how that works.
Yeah.
The sports industry is actually very, very small.
It is.
It's very small. I've met people who are literally, or what I consider one or two people away from a LeBron James or from a Jason Tatum or from a Ivory Ladder. One person away, pick up the phone and make a call. Oh, hey, Ivory, how you doing? Stuff like that. You're literally that close. And you're that close because y'all in the same area.
Right.
Y'all working and doing the same, same thing. And all of us are busy. All of us, our calendars are booked. And so for me, it was all of this time, I've been working to try to reach a certain goal where in reality, or reach a certain height. Let me say that, not a certain goal. I've been working all this time to reach a certain height. And it really ain't height. It's about work,
Right.
impact, consistency, dedication. Like, that's what we're working to maintain every day. Make sure that you're surrounded by people that are, fanning your flame and making sure that you hold yourself accountable, making sure that you stay on top of your players and get them in the rooms where they too can succeed and be effective post-career. Right? It's not even about this unspoken of ladder that we're trying to climb.
Yeah.
No, you're right where you need to be. Do the work right there. The people gonna come. You're gonna pass and bypass a lot of people. You're gonna meet and greet a lot of people. But the work ain't gonna never change.
Bingo. And the work always gonna speak for itself too.
The fruit always let you know what you're dealing with.
Always.
For sure.
I got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
So what advice would you have for any, because in my eyes, I think that the athletes now, they aren't as, I won't say simple-minded as we were, but I think they think more than just a sport.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for any athletes, especially women athletes, who may want to be an agent one day and just don't know? Because I know when I was in college, I told a lot of my professors, like, I want to be an agent. And a lot of my classmates did too. Right. And a lot of them told us, like, it's a saturated field. It's not that. I don't think you should do that, blah, blah, blah. What advice would you have for anyone in college right now, in high school or out of college, who may want to be an agent one day? And what advice would you have for any players who's like us, who hasn't been able to get a contract yet, but still want to pursue that career, the basketball career, and get paid to play basketball or any sport? What advice would you have for them?
So to answer your first question, the advice that I would give to those looking to become an agent, my first piece of advice would be know your why, right? And everyone says that, but that's super important. And you also got to know why it's your why, right? Your why is not everybody else's why. And you have to surround yourself around people who are smarter than you. You have to surround yourself around people who are going to challenge you. You have to surround yourself around people who understand where you're trying to go. And sometimes that's not those that are closest to you, right? So you have to become okay with being safe but uncomfortable. And another thing I would tell them is ask all of the questions. That's how you know who's really interested and who's really invested in your career, right?
True.
Those that are assigned to you for your journey don't ever mind giving you an answer, right? And it won't be surface level. When you know your why, you know what questions to ask.
Right.
Do your research. Do your homework. Go in asking the questions that nobody else has asked. Don't be afraid to poke the bear or, kick against the prick when it comes time to make things move and shake. I'm known for rattling a cage. Take pride in it. Because if nobody else is going to do it, then what? Right. You got to be able to have those difficult conversations and have the boldness to have, some wherewithal to approach those people that you feel like or deem as celebrities. When I see Dawn Staley, I'm not going to be afraid to have a conversation with her because she's Dawn Staley.
And you may learn something from her, from a similar conversation.
Exactly. But again, who's to say that Dawn won't learn anything from me? Facts. We have to stop underestimating ourselves and thinking that just because I don't have the quote-unquote experience on paper, that I don't know what I'm talking about. Because, again, like you said, those professors that say, oh, well, it's overly saturated. Oh, well, it's this. Oh, well, it's that. If LeBron would have listened to all of those people, or Rich Paul would have listened to all the people that said you don't have enough experience, he's too big of an athlete for you, that's too much for you to manage. Right. He wouldn't have become the agent that he is today. And so for me, I'm like, nah, I know my why, and I know why my why is my why. I'm not going to let you put stipulations on what I can and cannot do. I can get it done. Right. And I do that work, and the fruit, it just shows. My second piece of advice for those who are looking to get contracts and become a player overseas is make sure that your film and your statistics align, right? A lot of the times we send, I receive a lot of film from players, and it's, them just scoring.
Mm-hmm.
It's them, dunking, or like, to be quite frank, everybody sends that same video.
Yeah.
You want to stand out? Give me, and this is me, like literally, I'm about to really put some players on game. Give me a 3 to 5 minute video that shows you scoring, that shows you dropping the dime, giving off the assist, that shows you strapping up on defense, that shows you creating plays for other players, right? Even you want to highlight something, highlight you building camaraderie on the floor. Like a player is out of position and you got to bump them over and push them up. Like, we're looking for that type of stuff. Like, that's how you can tell championship caliber and culture.
Right.
That type of stuff. I don't want to see 3 to 5 minutes of you just literally coming down court, scoring all these always in your hand. Like, okay, yeah, I want to see you hit a couple counter moves so that I can tell what type of deficiencies you have in your ball handling, right? I'm going to pick this video apart. So I don't want you to try to send me something that's perfect, because I know you're not a perfect player off rip.
Right.
I need you to send me something that I can actually dissect. Period. Send me something I can dissect. And don't be afraid to share your statistics, right? Numbers are everything in this sport.
Stats almost is the most important thing.
Stats is the most important thing. It's a business.
Honestly.
It's always numbers. Don't ever get it twisted. Like, all players, hear me out. Don't ever get it twisted. Yeah. This is a numbers game.
That was one of them reasons why I didn't get the contracts that I wanted.
Right.
Because later on in my senior season, I started off killing. But I went on a slump.
Yep.
And my head coach had so much confidence in me that he told me to keep shooting even if you're missing.
Yeah.
But while I'm missing, my percentages are going down.
Exactly.
So my agent would tell me, like, yo, they are interested in you, but they're saying your percentages are too low. Like, they aren't what they were when they first realized who you was or whatever.
Yeah, that effectiveness.
And I didn't think about any of that while I'm playing. So, I think the stats is one of the most important things by far.
Absolutely. The first thing I do with players when they start talking to me and telling me, like, oh, yeah, like, I've been killing, I've been doing whatever, and I ask them, what's your efficiency? What do your numbers look like? You a guard shooting 75% from the free throw line? Let me just be honest with you. It's unacceptable.
Facts.
And when they get to me, it's like, oh, my God, like, nah, she don't believe in me. No, I got to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
That's why I became an agent, because coaching, when I say that to a player, they're immediately offended. As an agent, when you're trying to get paid and this is your livelihood and all bets are off, because that's really what it is. This is a jungle. All bets are off. This is my livelihood.
Facts.
It's always next man up. You get hurt today, they're going to find the next player today.
Facts.
Right? And the only thing that's going to hold some weight is those numbers.
Absolutely.
Right? So coming to me saying I'm a point guard and I average 5 and 6 turnovers a game.
No, that ain't gonna cut it.
Not gonna cut it. Not at all. You don't have any, clock awareness. Not gonna cut it. Like, and I'm gonna ask you questions, and you're not even gonna know that your answers are gonna tell me everything.
Right.
Because it's literally just general conversation, right? Because they come off trying to impress me.
Right.
I'm not the person that you have to impress. It's the presidents of the organization that you have to impress, right? I can look at your numbers and tell you whether or not they're going to be impressed.
Right.
I'm just the messenger for them to let you know what is and what isn't acceptable. And so I have to let you know 75% is not going to cut it. As a guard, you need to be shooting anywhere between 88 to 95% from the free throw line.
Yeah. And honestly, if your agent isn't being this upfront with you and this real with you,
absolutely,
you should probably find another agent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 88 to 95%. You shooting from the tray as a guard, I say anywhere between 45, 50%, especially if you're taking 3 or 4 a game. Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, you can.
Agreed.
You mean to tell me we put up thousands of shots in the gym and you can't make 3 out of 5? You can't make 3 consistently? Contested.
And if you're a shooter,
that's
really what they look for overseas.
Absolutely.
So if you're a shooter and you're not consistent, the chances of you getting a contract is very slim.
Absolutely. You know what was the hardest thing for me to realize, like, post-college, was that as good as I was in college, my numbers were not even half as good as they could have been. Right? Because, shout out to my trainer, Victor Moody, he was the first person to come up to me and tell me, like, with all the accomplishments that I had at Little City, he was the first person to tell me, you good, but you can't shoot a lick. And I was like, what? I'm the MVP. I'm a female athlete at the university. Like, nah, you just trying to. He was like, nah, like, let me get you right. I promise.
That's
and
dope.
I had to learn, like, a lot of things all over again. And it made me really, really deep dive. And for the first time in my life, I put on 15 pounds, pure muscle, right? I'm bullying people that are 6'2", 6'3" in the post because I worked on my athleticism over the summer. I'm jumping out the gym. As small as I am, I'm pushing 45 dumbbells. Like, I'm in the best shape of my life. And I'm like, whoa, like, this is what it takes? And I learned that my senior year. And so going into being a professional, I was like, oh, man, like, my numbers don't reflect, like, what I've grown into becoming. So you know what I did? I had to get into the combines. I had to show, right? I go to a combine in Atlanta, June of 2019, and I kill. It's 115 players, right? Some already professionals, some of them straight out of college. I lead them in scoring, but I finished top 3 in efficiency out of 120, right? It's like, oh, man, like, because we always think that scoring is just the thing. It's not.
It's not.
But I was strapping up. When the ball went in my hand, you know, I'm making plays. I'm setting that screen, making sure that, you know, my big man roll over top and, you know, they get that lob, they get that pass. Like, I'm doing all of the things. And so that's what I have to tell players now. It's not just one-dimensional.
Right.
You have to know the game. Right. And that's my concern for this next generation coming up. Like, they are literally illiterate when it comes down to basketball IQ.
I don't think they're actually watching the games.
No.
It's all highlights.
No. They watching a lot of counter moves.
Yeah.
They watching a lot of, you know, trick shots, and that's cool. But when it's time to sit down and dissect the game and, like, tell me what you saw on film.
Right.
Tell me why this play really didn't work, right? They're going to say, oh, well, that person out of position, whatever. No, the timing is off. Right? They're out of sync. You got to make sure that in practice you build that chemistry with your players so that everybody on the floor knows what everybody is doing. So that when that play is called, things are running in sync. There's a rhythm on the floor. Communication, even on offense. Like, telling my players stuff like that. Like, you have to communicate with your players on offense. Now, like, me and all of my homegirls, when we talk about basketball or we're in the gym playing, it's like nonstop conversation. Even when, like, in between pickup games, it's nonstop conversation because everybody gets it. Everybody understands now, okay, cool. And a lot of us are professionals. Right? We're talking the game all day long. The Aces are playing, Minnesota. Like, we're talking like, okay, why this didn't work? What should they have done better? Like, you have to surround yourself around people that got that IQ.
Absolutely.
Players.
Absolutely.
Surround yourself around people that have the IQ. And if you don't know, don't be afraid to ask. Because I'll tell you, I struggled my junior and senior year learning IQ. Like, nobody had ever sat me down and taught me how to dissect film. Nobody. But now, I can sit down and dissect film with anybody. Let's talk about it. Let's get to, because I put in that work.
There you go.
And I surrounded myself around those people.
There you go. And having that IQ is what essentially will take you to the next level.
Absolutely.
So, man, this was great. This is great. I learned a lot. I will say I'm proud of you and everything you've accomplished.
Likewise.
Keep going. So how many players are you representing right now?
So right now I have Najanique Langley, who is a hometown favorite. I have Kayla Jones. I have Jordan Morton. Those are my 3 main ones right now. We're getting them, you know, set and ready to go. And Camille Downs from Norfolk State University.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, so let me ask you this. Going forward, what's some goals that you have for your agency?
For my agency, We are looking to get one of our players back into the WNBA, right? It's becoming extremely competitive, but she got the size, she got the skill, she got it, right? And just making sure that she knows that, hey, you got what it takes.
Right.
You definitely got what it takes. And putting in that work, like all of my players are educated, every last one of them.
Yeah.
Degrees and post-grad degrees. Like all of my players have graduate degrees.
Oh, that's dope.
Like I really pop my collar on that.
Right.
You're educated because that's one of my pillars. You're not just going to be a player, you're going to be educated, right?
Right.
And then two, making sure that their businesses or their nonprofits run smoothly. While you're out trying to handle business, you know, that your nonprofits are running smoothly and that, you know, you're making impact in your local communities because let's not forget where we come from.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? All of my players, all of them, they either train, work out other players work out other, you know, young kids from back home, or they are helping other nonprofit organizations, always doing some philanthropic work.
Right.
Right? Because it doesn't stop when that ball stops bouncing.
There you go.
Making sure that their businesses get off the ground and get to running smoothly and, you know, build some revenue and generate some income for them. Those are our pillars as an agency, right? It's not just to sign the next, you know, big NIL player. Like we just, you know, recently landed a influencer deal and the agency's been established for about 5 years, right? We're a small boutique agency out of DC. Shout out to Swag Sports and my partner, CEO Shannon Bryant. We've been established for about 5 years, right? I've been licensed for 2. Shannon's been licensed for 5 at this point, right? The stuff that we're doing as a small boutique agency, no startup, no, like literally we're hitting the mark and then some.
Yeah.
Just landed some influencer stuff with a company called Pure Fuel Sports, right?
Nice.
Getting our players, you know, media kits so that they can see and know, like, you're not just a player.
Right.
You're a brand. You're a business. Jay-Z said it best. I'm not a businessman. I am the business, man. Like, that's what I want my players to know. You're not just anybody.
I love it. And I really feel like most agents aren't that way. I think that they're just trying to get the contracts, and if they don't, they
get the endorsements, get the sponsorships.
Yeah.
No.
And if it don't work out, then all right, they on to the next player.
Absolutely.
So
building the character and building the professionalism of my players. Absolutely.
I took my hat to y'all for sure.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for coming to the Solid World podcast.
Thank you.
I think this would be very inspirational, motivational for a lot of people, a lot of athletes, a lot of people in your field for sure.
Yes.
So again, thank you for coming. We got to have you back on another time.
Absolutely.
For
Just
sure.
let me know.
Listen, it's a Solid World podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode.